Hello, Sandy.
Hello, Miss Karen. Are you wonderful today on this magnificent Monday?
I am amazing. Thank you. It's rainy and nasty out here, but I'm still allowing myself the space.
There you go. There you go. That's wonderful.
So
Well,
this
thank
is going
you.
to be a conversation. It's just going to be a conversation. It's going to be a little different than what do you do for a living? And, you know, it's more or less how you came into doing what you're doing. Like what inspired you, and perhaps something that you can give the audience that they can take away being an ordinary person stepping into an extraordinary life. How's that?
A very ordinary person stepping into, yes, you're right, blessings that this season in life brings.
Right, exactly. So with that being said, just give me a before I press record. We are recording. Actually, let me stop the recording a second. Go. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening Potential podcast, where we embark on transformational journeys of self-discovery and personal growth. On each episode, we're planning on diving into the stories, the experiences, and insights that inspire us to reach out and reach our full potential. And today, I'm so grateful to be joined by Sandy Warren, who is a true luminary in the world for sure. And she's going to talk a little bit about herself and how she got into her journey of becoming a coach and what that looked like for her. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining me today and joining us out there in the universe. Sandy, tell us a little bit about yourself and like what inspired you first and foremost to go into coaching? Was this something that you always knew you wanted to do, or were ordinary people going into extraordinary contexts of life? And like, what was your spark? What was the
Well,
inspiration?
Karen, thank you very much for inviting me to play and chat with you. And I think that many years ago, I was a trainer. And we didn't really have life coaches at that point. So I believe that I have been a life coach for much of my professional career. And personally, it just seemed to be a part of me, caring about other people and sometimes finding that maybe I had the ability to see the forest for the trees. And so the journey for me has been one of not so much an absolute pivotal moment as it has been just one step and then another step. And certainly I believe that the universe had a plan and has unfolded it for me. And about 10 years ago, I became a yoga instructor. And I think that that also was a part of my journey. I had done yoga for many years, but moving into the arena as an instructor kind of opened me up to the universe a little bit more fully, to the spirituality that led me down this path. And I do believe that I learned um, to listen better, to listen to the mind, to listen to the body, and that has brought me to this moment in time. And I'm sure that there's a lot more steps and growth still ahead of me.
Mhm. Awesome, beautiful. This is such a left fielded question, but I have to ask because I just always seem to notice there's a thread when we are really living into our purpose and our passion. I notice that a lot of my clients in particular, when I ask them this question, it's like, what did you play with as a child? Does it relate to what you're doing now?
What did I play with as a child? That is a left-handed question, and I like it. um, I was, as a child, very active and physical. So if I wasn't swimming or hanging off a tree, and mostly my childhood friends were boys. And so I was in acrobatics. I actually at a very young age had a boy partner and we did double acrobatics. So my toys were kind of physical activities
Uh-huh.
and took a lot of strength and energy um and so I don't remember playing. I know I had dolls, but I don't remember playing a lot with dolls. Um, so I would have to say my playtime was mostly outdoors and mostly physical time.
So from that physical journey and the outdoors playtime that you had, is there any correlation that you see to what you're doing today in any way, shape, or form that you can think of?
Well, that is another curious question because most of my experiences as an adult have, of course, demanded that I show up in a more conservative place, which is often in an an office. And even though I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, but my energy is happy when I'm outside, when I'm in nature, when I'm taking a walk. And during our COVID time, we took yoga outside in a little pocket park in a neighborhood. And it was very curious because it didn't matter if it was hot or if it was misty, or even if we heard a thunderstorm rolling in, we pushed our yoga practice for as long as we could before we had to run indoors. So it was nice to take what otherwise was a conservative practice and place and take it outdoors into nature. So that was kind of unintentional, but necessary for us to stay, myself and my students, to stay in a whole, healthy, grounded place. So yes, nature has been an answer.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Nature is so my go-to. I actually, people ask me all the time, and maybe you can refer to this as well afterwards, like, how do you meditate? And I'm like, I'm not one of these people to sit. I go out in nature and I find my peace out there and my centered and groundedness there. How is that for you?
I can relate because as much as I love some podcasts, and I think that when I take my walk, it's a natural time to listen to a podcast because I'm not on the computer, I'm not interacting with a client, but I have great difficulty turning that podcast on because I'd rather just be. I'd rather watch my breathing. I'd rather look at nature. Um, watch what birds fly in, or if the geese are flapping around, or hearing the dogs bark, or the kids play at the playground. All of those things are just very soothing and comforting and help me to feel a little whole. So I'm not as good at the podcasts as I would like to be because I enjoy them and I enjoy the inspiration and the wisdom and all of that good stuff. But the sounds of nature probably are really what heals me, and that's why I'm out there.
Yeah, I am so with you with that one, Sandy. So with you because I don't listen to anything when I'm out in nature. That's me time. That's my downtime. But when I'm in the car, man, I've got things cranking, books on tape. I'm
Right.
always exploring and learning and expanding, podcasts, whatever it is. And eventually, every now and then I put on the music and sort of jam out to that as well. What's your go-to for sort of centering yourself?
Um, there's always music on in my home. And it might be jazz, it might be um, more esoteric. It doesn't, every day is maybe a little bit different. And so that, but it's always in the background. And I may not be aware of it. I'm often not aware of it, but I do think that that still grounds me. Um, I think there's value in silence, but in my normal day, I like to have some background music, and that carries me. So that's one of the things that grounds me. Breath is another thing that grounds me. So before we joined each other this morning, I really wanted to be in a place of kindness and generosity and service. And so after scooting around doing the normal morning routines of getting my diffusers going or getting a little bit of food into my body or whatever it might have been, I sat for a moment and I called upon my angels and asked them to give me the heart and the words and the maybe wisdom, maybe something brilliant will come out of my lips that somebody might need to hear today. So that's kind of how I center myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Looking back on who you've been in the past, because for me, especially in a tranquil soulish space, looking back on who you've been and the journey that's taking you to your becomingness, right? Because it's always unfolding. Um, what was like the biggest key point that might be a good takeaway for the audience that's listening? That, we talk about ordinary people living ordinary or expanding into extraordinary lives. And it's not something that just happens overnight. It's something that we become in the process. What was your biggest aha moment that really shifted into your becomingness and exploring and becoming more of who you are today?
As you said, I think it's multifaceted. There's no, sometimes people will ask you what a pivotal moment was. And I know for some people there's an absolute pivotal moment. I
Right.
can't define one specific that brought me into a more spiritual path. But I will say that I was resistant um, to become a coach. And 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 it wasn't the coaching that I was resistant to, just to show you how we can get hung up on words. It was the word life coach. To me, life coach said that I was going to tell somebody else how to live their life because mine was so perfect. And I just wanted to make theirs perfect too. Well, how
Right.
ridiculous was that in my mind? So I just I stepped away from it just for that crazy little word. And I do believe we do get caught up in some words sometimes. So
Absolutely.
once I processed past that, and it really happened probably because of my yoga classes. I have very small classes, uh, 8 is my maximum. So I teach energetically. I don't teach with a specific routine. And I teach according to the energy that I feel, what I notice going on in my yogis' bodies. And so that was my first coaching certification. It was called body centric coaching. And so it helped me to help my yogis be in a better communication with their bodies and then their minds. And then of course the emotion follows. So once I did that, I got over myself, which is always a good thing, and went on to a bigger picture. And that's when I decided to get my certification so that I could have um, I don't want to say certification is the all important thing, but for many people, they want to know that you have the training. And so when I got that certification and then I adjusted my thinking, then I opened up to being able to be of service. And I think I became a better listener and more patient. And those things turned into watching, which is always the joy, watching the people that I worked with have a transition, have more peace in their life, those things. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm willing to bet, and I don't want to assume anything by any stretch, but Sandy, from your experiences with the yoga and being in body, right? And then taking the communication into a space of the mental and then the emotional, because I can relate to that for sure. Uh, do you also take that into your coaching practice?
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
usually begin with a breathing technique because if nothing else, we usually, so many of us rush from one appointment, one demand, one responsibility into the next. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important um, to clear away some of the clutter and to just give ourselves permission to listen more intently to the higher voices that are trying to guide us for our highest and best good.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, if there's something out there that you from the heart would like to share with somebody that you believe might make a difference in somebody who doesn't know what we know at this point, right? Because they're just starting out, whether it be coaching or whatever it is, they're starting out on their journey. Is there some words of wisdom that you'd like to shed?
Well, I'll maybe start with one of my favorite quotations, and it is that angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And I know as a woman who was a single parent for 15 years, raising two kids, working on 100% commission, I did not take myself lightly. Everything was serious, and it was all about responsibility and doing what was expected next. And since a number of years ago, when I heard that quotation, it helped me to sometimes take a breath and step back and laugh. And now that I have four grandchildren, I don't get to see them nearly enough. But when I do, I get to be that child. I get to play. And there's so much wisdom in that. So I would probably say to, well, I specifically deal, my specialty is women in the mid-season of life. So that second season, whether it's divorce, single parent, becoming a widow, empty nest, whatever it might be, I really believe and I really try and help my clients to laugh and to take things more lightly and to rewrite the story. One of the things that I've discovered in my clients, it's very difficult to rewrite that story, to say this doesn't have to define me. That old message isn't really what I need to play in or stay in. I can step out of that. I can find another way to look at that. So whether we say it's flipping the story, redefining the story, whatever words we want to use, I would absolutely say play more. There's a lot of energy to be gained in playing.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as a matter of fact, that's a great reminder because one of the things that I've committed to myself this year is to laugh more. We get so significant in our beingness that we forget to laugh. And, we, as children growing up, we have all this like non-attachment to life in a sense. We're learning and we're playing and we're exploring and we're laughing. And then all of a sudden it's like something happens where it's like, okay, now you have to follow the rules, and the rules are where are we playing? Like, where are we? I think they even, I believe here, I mean, I live in Florida, they took physical education out of the school system. I'm like, where do you play? Where do you learn to be physical? And then we wonder why we're a society of overweight and inactive as the kids are like this on um, wow, like what's your thoughts about that? Is it just me having this like, wow, what's going on with the society today or what?
No, it is certainly not just you, and I think we need to get more people to play in our arena rather than go into that arena. And I really cannot imagine that if I did not have physical education in high school, I can't imagine how terrible my grades would have been because I was not exactly an A student anyway. But in order to be that on that gymnastics team and to be in those extracurricular things, I had to keep my grades up. And so I can't even imagine if they took that away from me. That was my inspiration. At the end of my day, I wanted to be the girl swinging around those uneven parallel bars. I just can't imagine if they had taken that away. So
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And being the oldest of two girls in the family, of course it was my responsibility to be responsible and set the example for my younger sister. And I just took that role on because that's what you did at that stage and point. So the good news about that is as a single parent, I was even though I was highly responsible, and I expected my kids to be responsible, certainly, but I did not um, limit them. I wanted them to go and experience life and make mistakes and have, learn from it. You're not making the mistakes that, that's where we grow. That's where we learn. We learn in the trenches. And my daughter particularly was extremely creative in the ways that she found to play. And my son was just very laid back. So it was two different lessons that I learned going through that, and they helped me to play.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I like to call it failing forward. Make
Yes.
mistakes, fail forward, pick yourself up. Like, what do you do when you start walking as a child? You fall down, you pick yourself up and you do it again. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I am a huge advocate of failing forward. And actually, that's what got me to where I am today because I finally gave myself permission to fall and
Yeah.
fail. And
Yeah.
when I fell, when I had my accident last year, it was like
Yeah.
giving myself permission to pause and allow myself the healing journey. And I can still be me doing what I do, and I can still have fun in the process. It's not always non-painful, but it's a process, right? It's part of the journey. And I love the context of play. I really, really, really love it. And how do you find yourself playing? Like, can you share anything that would support the listeners in what they can do to find more play in their life?
I'm afraid my play is not all that exciting, but it works for me. Um, my husband is a great advocate. He really, really goes off into nature to heal himself. He camps alone at the top of a mountain. He fly fishes, and I don't do that, but I take that time to just um, be irresponsible. So, I can leave dirty dishes in the sink and I don't have to do laundry and I can read. I can even stay in my jammies all day. So, those are some things that I do, but we do love to travel, and walking the beach is very soothing to me. We also love to cook. And so that's also very healing for me. For example, I asked him to make risotto last night. It's a favorite of mine. We don't have it very often. It takes a long time to do well. And so, with a glass of wine, I'm an extremely supportive coach, sitting on the edges. So that's kind of some of the ways that I like to play. I
Yeah,
like um, to gather with people, but I don't like to gather with people in big groups. I like the intimacy of conversation that's not superficial.
yeah, I hear you on that one. I hear you on that one. One of the things that I found for myself with play, because I love belly laughs, and I haven't tried laugh yoga yet. And I laughed at yoga and I've heard it's hysterical. And I know they have it here in Sarasota. I just haven't checked it out yet, which is now that I mention it, I'm going to definitely check it out. But one of the things that I do love doing is, as I said, belly laughing. So I go and sometimes I'll even go by myself. I don't mind we have the improv theater here. And I remember on my journey of getting out of my shell because I was very awkward back in the day before I started my coaching practice. I wanted to go into facilitation, and it was like I was one of these very stiff, kind of people. And it was like, how do you get out of your shell? And how do you present yourself in a way that people are going to listen? And I used to go to improv theater, and I said, I'm going to take a course. Talk
That's
about getting
coming
out of
out
your
of your
shell
shell.
fast. It was so awkward, but it was like, okay, Karen, you paid for this. It's awkward as all heck, but I'm just going to have fun with it. And I'm just going to be me. And slowly, I started coming out of my shell to the point where I took it to South Africa and I was able to present. And like all those lessons that I had learned served me well. So often these things will build upon one another, like your yoga has built on what you're doing now. And, my improv has supported my facilitations and showing up and stuff. But sometimes I just like to show up with a glass of wine at the theater and laugh and laugh and laugh. It feels so good. And we don't do it often enough. And
That's
I mean,
right.
sometimes I don't even find movies to support that in all contexts where I can laugh, belly laugh. I can laugh, but not the belly laugh. And yet, what's the opposite, right? There's always cause and effect, is letting go of and releasing. And I don't know about you, but I found myself, it's been a challenging year coming out of a major accident and just everything going on. I've got mold going on here, and I'm still showing up. And in the space of showing up there, I was holding back the tears. And,
Mhm.
from a physical well-being standpoint, if you don't emote it and get it out and release it, it's going to manifest in your body in one shape or form as ease or disease. So I found myself the other day asking my daughter, do you have a movie I could cry to? Because it's just not happening. I'll start crying and then I'm like choking it back. And she told me about a movie, a man named Otto. And I cried my eyes out and I was like, "Phew, I needed that. It felt so good." So, giving ourselves permission to find things to laugh about, giving ourselves permission to cry. It's okay to cry and release. That's how your body emotes it, gets the emotion out, and allows you the space to just find that centered calmness again.
Yeah, yeah.
Any thoughts to?
But an old memory, two old memories came up. Um, One, I had a roommate years ago, and once a month she drew a bath, and she said, I'm gonna go and take my cry bath now. I said, what is cry bath? She said, well, I just take all the stuff that made me sad or maybe unhappy or the things that I felt I failed at or whatever. And she just said, I just make a mental list and then I go in and I soak in the bathtub and I just release all that. And I thought, that's like brilliant. It never occurred to me because, like you alluded to, I was the strong one, I was the stoic one. I
Exactly.
was the responsible one and all this other stuff. And it just was not something I processed. And the to your point about doing improv, I didn't have to pay to get my improv training. As a sales director with Mary Kay Cosmetics, I trained weekly, and I might have trained in front of 10 people or 50 people, and sometimes hundreds of people. And so, you can have a plan, but the plan never goes past the first encounter, right? And so the questions that you ask or the disruptions that happen, so you get to have to dance on your feet and be flexible. And if you're afraid of being looking foolish or making a mistake, you're dead in the water. So you have to have a sense of humor. So that was a great training ground for me. And just recently, I was invited to do a talk. It was called The Power of Voice. And my signature talk became Shift Your Shit. And so I was up on stage in front of a group of people, and it felt great to be back up in that space because
Right.
typically I'm in a small group or it's on Zoom or it's one-to-one. And so when I sent the recording to my daughter, she goes, how did I get to be your daughter? Because that you came alive there. And she said it would not be me, but she was right. I do. The energy is there. And you see the faces in front of you and you want to lift them and make them laugh. And yeah, that energizes me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, we're getting to the end of and I promised myself I wasn't going to wait till the very end to get your contact information. The contact information will definitely be, on your website, and everything else will be in the show notes that it will be posted after the show recording. But in the meantime, if you want to give a quick, how to get in touch with you and 1 to 2 takeaways that are really going to make a difference for the people listening that you feel from your heart.
Thank you for asking. And because of doing more and more podcasts, I decided to make for those who do listen to podcasts while they walk, I made a really quick way to find me. And it will lead you to some free gifts and an ebook and some guided meditations. And it's simply Coach Sandy Chat, CHAT.com. CoachSandyChat.com. will take you to all sorts of resources. And thank you for that. And I would go back to take yourself more lightly. Find a way to, as you said, laugh, take yourself into a space that nurtures you, grounds you, and by all means, look at the expectations that other people have put on you, that the society has put on you, that the box that you've been placed in, and recognize that you have the ability to step out of that. You have the ability to rewrite that story, and it's important that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandy, thank you so much for honoring us and being a guest and coming and joining us and, making a difference in the lives of those who are just really starting out their journey or maybe not starting out their journey and just want to remind themselves of who they are. And I'm so grateful that you joined us here today, and I look forward to connecting with you sometime soon.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I appreciate you, and I hope everybody out there has just a beautiful day, and thank you.